My husband took our daughter to a birthday party. When I arrived to pick them up, the hostess quietly pulled me aside and said, "Take your daughter and leave immediately." Then she handed me a note. "Your husband did something terrible." My blood froze when I read it. If these stories mean something to you, please subscribe. Your subscription means more to me than you can imagine. It's motivation. It's the reason I keep telling these stories. And write in the comments where you're watching from. Now let's begin. The bells of the Cathedral of Archangel Michael were ringing for the evening service when Izolda Lukanik-Naragova received a phone call that changed everything. She was standing in her small kitchen on Bolshaya Pokrovskaya Street, kneading dough for pies, her hands covered in flour, when her husband's name lit up on the screen. "Gavril, everything okay? Is Lyubov having fun at the birthday party?" On the other end of the line there was only silence at first, then a female voice, low, trembling, unfamiliar. "Izolda Lukanikna. My name is Matriona Ivanovna Solonina. I am the host of a children's celebration at the fair. Your husband brought your daughter here 3 hours ago. I need you to come alone and not tell anyone." The flour on Izolda's hands seemed to turn into ice. "What happened? Is my daughter injured? Give the phone to Gavril immediately. Please, just come. Your daughter is safe for now, but there is something you must see. Something about your husband. I can't explain it over the phone, please. I'm scared." The connection cut off. Izolda stood frozen in her kitchen, leaving the unfinished dough on the wooden board. Through the window, the red brick walls of the Kremlin glowed in the last rays of August light. Below, on Bolshaya Pokrovskaya, tourists and locals walked past buildings that were several centuries old, unaware that her world was collapsing. She slowly washed her hands, as her mother had taught her. Clean hands before prayer, before anything important. She crossed herself in front of the icon of the Kazan Mother of God, forehead, chest, right shoulder, left. She put on a cardigan and left. She took a minibus across the Kanavinsky Bridge. The Volga stretched below, dark. The setting sun painted the water in shades of blood and gold. Her hands would not stop trembling. At the exhibition complex she quickly found the hall, balloons tied to the railings, a sign with children's crafts. Through the windows she saw a few remaining children playing, parents gathered in groups. Matriona Ivanovna Solonina met her at the side entrance. She was a sturdy woman about 50, with graying hair tied in a practical bun and calloused hands of someone who works with children every day. Her eyes were red. "Thank you for coming. Follow me quickly." She led Izolda through a storage room full of painted Matryoshka dolls and Dimkovo toys into a small office in the back. The door clicked shut behind them. "Your husband brought your daughter at 2 o'clock, Matriona Ivanovna began without preface. He enrolled her in creative classes, paid for half a day, and then he left her." "Left? What do you mean left?" "He walked out of the room half an hour after arriving. He told one of my assistants he needed to make an important call and would be back soon. He never came back. Your daughter has been asking about him for 3 hours. We kept her busy, gave her food and juice, told her that her father was busy, but he never came." Izolda's legs gave way. She sank heavily onto a nearby chair. "Where is he now? Did you call him?" "I tried many times. He didn't answer, but that's not why I called you." Matriona Ivanovna reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, wrinkled and worn, as if it had been clenched and smoothed out again. "I found this in the men's restroom, stuffed behind a pipe. I think he dropped it by accident. I think he was meeting someone." With trembling fingers Izolda unfolded the paper. It was a handwritten note. The ink was slightly smudged. "G. Platform 4. River Station. 7 p.m. Come alone. Don't take anything. She suspects nothing. Documents are ready. We move 2 hours later. Don't tell anyone." "What is this?" Izolda whispered. "Who is Angie? What documents?" I don't know, but I recognized your husband from a photo in his merchant certificate, and I also learned something else. Matriona Ivanovna took out her phone and opened a photo. It was taken at a birthday party last month in Yaroslavl. My cousin sent it to me because she thought it was funny. A man very similar to your Gavril Petrovich Rogov, but with another woman and another little girl. Isolda stared at the picture. It was Gavril. Her Gavril. With his kind eyes and soft smile, sitting at a children's table, a 4-year-old girl on his lap, and next to him a dark-haired woman with her hand on his arm. The woman was wearing a wedding ring, the girl a birthday crown. Who are they? Her voice was barely audible. My sister says the woman's name is Elvira Pavlovna Dyakonova. She lives in Yaroslavl. She has been married for 5 years to a man named Gavril, a merchant who often travels for business. They have a daughter named Aksinya, 4 years old. The room seemed to tilt, and Isolda clutched the edge of the table. This was impossible. Gavril is my husband. We've been married 7 years. We have Lyubov. He comes home every evening. He often travels for work. For long periods. Isolda's thoughts began to race wildly. Gavril often went to fairs in Kazan, Saratov, Yaroslavl. He was gone for days, sometimes weeks. He called every evening, brought gifts, said he missed them. Yes, but he calls, he sends photos. Have you ever visited him on these trips? No. He said the conditions at the fairs are Spartan, not suitable for. She stopped. The words froze in her throat. Matriona Ivanovna sat across from her and took her hands. They were warm, strong, reassuring. Isolda Lukanikna. I didn't call you to destroy your marriage. I called because your daughter is alone in the next room, asking about parents who aren't here, and because I have a very bad feeling about what is going to happen at the river station at 7 o'clock. Isolda looked at the note again. Platform 4, river station, 7 o'clock. It was already almost 7. What should I do? Go to the river station. See for yourself who your husband is meeting. While you are there, I will look after your daughter. She can stay with me tonight. I raised 3 children, I know how to care for them. But you must go now. And if he sees me? Then you will know the truth, and decide what to do with it. Isolda stood up. Her legs felt like they didn't belong to her. Lyubov, can I see her first? Just for a minute? Matriona Ivanovna led her to the door of the hall. Through the glass, Isolda saw her daughter sitting at a small table, carefully coloring a wooden doll. Dark hair, so much like her mother's, fell across her face. She was humming a melody, a little song Isolda had taught her. Isolda wanted to burst through the door, grab her child, and never let go. But if she did that, she might never learn the truth. And the truth, she was beginning to understand, might be the only thing that could protect them both. She turned away. The river station stands on the bank of the Volga. A beautiful building with Soviet frescoes glorifying the great river and the workers who traverse its waters. Meteor hydrofoils and passenger ships dock here, carrying travelers to Yaroslavl, Kostroma, and other cities upstream. At 7 o'clock on Saturday evening, the platforms were quiet. Only a few passengers waited for the last departures. Isolda arrived at 6:53. She hid behind a newspaper kiosk near platform 4. Her heart was beating so loudly it felt like everyone could hear it. At 6:57 she saw him. Gavril Petrovich Rogov stepped onto the platform carrying a small suitcase. He was wearing clothes she didn't recognize, a different jacket, a cap pulled low. He kept checking his phone, glancing toward the river where a meteor ship was approaching. At exactly 7 o'clock, a woman appeared from the Kaza direction, dark-haired, pretty, around 30. She carried a little girl about 4 years old, holding a teddy bear tightly to her chest. Gavril's face changed the moment he saw them. It was the same expression he wore when he came home to Isolda and Lyubov after long trips, relief, love, pure joy. He hugged the woman. He kissed the child. They spoke quickly, the woman nodded. Gavril pointed toward the approaching ship. Isolde couldn't hear the words. She didn't need to. She took out her phone and began recording. The meteor docked. Gavril helped the woman and child aboard, carrying their bags, holding the little girl's hand. At the gangway, he paused and looked back, not at Isolde, but at the city behind him, at Nizhny Novgorod, at the life he was leaving. Then he stepped onto the ship and disappeared inside. Isolde watched until the meteor departed, until its trail dissolved into the dark waters of the Volga, until there was nothing left to watch. Then she walked back through the empty streets, past the Kremlin walls, past the cathedral whose bells her father had rung that morning, back to the exhibition center where her daughter was waiting. Matryona Ivanovna opened the door at her knock. One look at Isolde's face was enough. She stepped aside in silence. Lyubov was sleeping on a small cot in the office, covered with a blanket embroidered with folk patterns. The painted wooden doll was pressed to her chest. Her face was peaceful, innocent, unaware that her father had just sailed away from her forever. Isolde sat beside her daughter and finally allowed herself to cry. The next morning, Isolde Lukyanik-Rogova entered the investigative committee building on Alexievskaya Street. She carried her phone with the recording, the crumpled note Matryona Ivanovna had found, and a folder of documents she had discovered in Gavril's office at 3 a.m. A birth certificate for a child named Aksenya Rogova. A marriage certificate from Yaroslavl. And life insurance policies totaling 15 million rubles for Isolde herself and another 10 million for Lyubov. Investigator Nazar Sergeyevich Grachev was a heavy-set man with kind eyes and the patient expression of someone who had seen every kind of human cruelty. He listened without interrupting as Isolde told her story, reviewing the video on her phone, examining the documents. Elvira Pavlovna Dyakonova, he said finally. Are you sure that's the woman's name? Yes. The party host identified her from photographs. He nodded slowly. I know that name. In Yaroslavl, 6 months ago, a report was filed. A concerned pharmacist reported prescriptions being written for a child matching that description, strong sedatives, blood thinners. The mother claimed the child had a rare illness. The prescriptions came from different doctors across 3 regions. Isolde stared at him. What are you saying? I'm not saying anything yet, he replied. But I am thinking that your husband may be more than just a bigamist. I am thinking that 15 million rubles is a very large sum of money. And I am thinking that Elvira Pavlovna has been hospitalized 3 times in the past year with unexplained symptoms that doctors could not explain. The room suddenly felt very cold. Where is Gavril now? On his way to Yaroslavl, if he followed his usual route, or possibly farther. The meteor connects to trains, to other cities. He may be planning to disappear completely. Investigator Grachev stood up. I will immediately contact the investigative committee in Yaroslavl. They have jurisdiction there. We will coordinate actions. I will secure a federal warrant and place surveillance at your apartment. But you must understand, if he realizes that you know, he may act. He may try to take your daughter, or worse. What should I do? Go home. Pack things for yourself and your child. I will arrange a safe place for you to stay. Perhaps with relatives outside the city. Do you have someone you trust? My father. Luka Gavrilovich Kurikin. He lives near the cathedral. Go to him. Do not tell anyone else, not friends, not neighbors. If your husband contacts you, do not answer. We will handle this. Isolde returned to her apartment on Bolshaya Pokrovskaya. She moved through the rooms like a ghost, packing clothes for herself and Lyubov, her grandmother's icons, a few precious photographs. In Lyubov's room she stopped by the crib, by the painted toys Gavril had brought from his trips, by the small cross above the pillow. Had he always planned it? Every kiss, every gift, every whispered promise, was it all a lie? Lyubov was still at the fair with Matryona Ivanovna. Isolde didn't want to explain. She would pick her up on the way to her father's. She would say something, anything, that might help a child understand a world that had suddenly lost all meaning. The phone rang. Gavril's name appeared on the screen. She almost answered. But something, curiosity, or perhaps desperate hope for an explanation, made her accept the call. Isolde. His voice was calm, controlled. The voice of a man who did not know he had been exposed. I am terribly sorry about yesterday. There was an emergency with a supplier in Yaroslavl. I had to leave immediately. I tried to call, but my phone died. Is Lyubov okay? She gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. She's fine. She stayed at the party with the hostess. She asked about you. A pause. I will make it up to her. To both of you. I'll be back tomorrow evening. I love you, Isolde. Never forget that. She wanted to scream. To ask about Elvira Pavlovna, about Aksinya, about the ship, the documents, the insurance policies. Instead she said, I love you too. Safe travels. She hung up and slid to the floor, shaking with silent sobs. Luka Gavrilovich Kurakin lived in a small apartment near the Cathedral of Archangel Michael, in the shadow of the bell tower where he had worked his entire life. When Isolde arrived that evening with Lyubov, he only looked at her face and silently let them in. Later, when Lyubov had fallen asleep in his bed, wrapped in blankets smelling of incense and old books, Isolde told him everything. He listened without speaking. His wrinkled face grew grayer with every revelation. When she finished, he crossed himself before the icon in the corner, a small image of the Vladimir Mother of God he had received in his youth. The man is a devil, he said quietly. What will happen now? The police are investigating. They are already in contact with Yaroslavl. The apartment is under surveillance. But it may take months to build the case, months in which he will still be free. Then we wait. And we pray. 3 days passed. Gavril called every evening. His voice was warm, gentle, full of promises to return soon. Isolde played her role, asked about his work, told him Lyubov missed him, while inside her stomach twisted with hatred and fear. On the 4th day, investigator Grachev called. Isolde Lukanikna, we made an arrest. Gavril Petrovich Rogov has been detained in Yaroslavl. She sank onto her father's worn sofa. What happened? He attempted to board a train to Moscow with Elvira Pavlovna Rogova and the child Aksinya. They had tickets for a flight to Turkey from there. The Yaroslavl Investigative Committee and local police detained them at the station under a federal warrant. In his luggage we found passports for himself, Elvira Pavlovna, and both children. Lyubov was also listed in one of them. We also found documents indicating he had taken out additional insurance policies on Elvira Pavlovna and Aksinya. And Elvira? She now knows. She was shocked. She knew nothing about you or Lyubov. She believed she was his wife. She thought her illnesses were natural. Doctors are now testing what he may have been giving her. Isolde closed her eyes. What happens now? There will be an investigation. It will take months, witnesses from 3 regions, evidence gathering, preparation for trial. He will remain in custody until then, without bail. You and your daughter are safe. When she told her father, Luka Gavrilovich said nothing at first. He simply took her hand and held it. His grip was warm and steady, the same hand that had pulled bell ropes for 40 years, calling people to prayer. One day, the bells will ring for him too, he said finally. Not joyful bells. Not festive ones. But they will ring. The single, lonely toll marking the departure of a soul. And on that day we will remember that God's justice is patient, but inevitable. The investigation lasted 5 months. In April of the following year, the trial began at the Nizhny Novgorod Regional Court. Isolde sat in the courtroom with her father, holding Lyubov's small hand tightly. The child did not understand why her father was in a cage, why he looked at her with unfamiliar eyes, why her mother would not let her near him. Gavril Petrovich Rogov sat on the defendant's bench in a grey prison uniform. His merchant confidence was gone. Beside him, a court-appointed lawyer shuffled papers. At the other end of the room sat Elvira Pavlovna Rogova with her family and her daughter Aksinya. A woman Isolda had never met, but who shared with her the same monster. The prosecution methodically presented evidence over several weeks. Investigator Nazar Sergeyevich Grachev testified about the documents found in Gavril's luggage, fake prescriptions, insurance policies. A pharmacist from Yaroslavl described a man who tried to obtain multiple prescriptions for a child who had never appeared in person. A doctor explained how the combination of medications, sedatives and blood thinners, could cause exactly the symptoms Elvira Pavlovna experienced: dizziness, weakness, falls, internal bleeding. Then Matriona Ivanovna Solonina gave her testimony. She described the birthday party, the father abandoning his daughter, the note found in the restroom. Her testimony was calm, confident, irrefutable. Finally, Elvira Pavlovna Rogova testified. She spoke about meeting Gavril 5 years earlier, his charm and devotion, their marriage, and their daughter. She spoke about the mysterious illnesses that had plagued her over the last year: hospital visits, tests showing nothing, doctors shrugging. And she spoke about the moment investigators showed her the photos of Isolda and Lyubov, the moment she realized her entire life had been a lie. "He said he loved me," her voice trembled. "He said I was the only one. He held our daughter in his arms and promised to protect us. And all the while, he was planning to kill me, take our child, and start over with someone new." In the defendant's seat, Gavril Petrovich Rogov showed no emotion. His face remained blank, his eyes fixed somewhere far away. Isolda was the final witness. She slowly approached the stand, holding her daughter's small golden cross. She told the court about 7 years of marriage, the daughter they raised together, and the birthday that changed everything. She described watching the meteor disappear into the darkness, carrying her husband away forever. "When I saw him with that woman and that child," she said, her voice steady despite the tears on her face, "I did not feel anger. I felt grief, for her daughter, for my own daughter who would grow up without a father. But now I know the truth. He wasn't just leaving us. He was planning to destroy us, all of us." She looked directly at Gavril. "You held our daughter in your arms. You sang her lullabies. You kissed her goodnight. And all the while, you were calculating what her life was worth. 15 million rubles. That was the price of my daughter's life. That was the price of mine. I hope that every night in your cell, you remember that. I hope you remember her face when she asked about you. I hope it haunts you until your last breath." For a moment, something slipped across Gavril's face. Something flickered in his eyes, something close to remorse. Then it was gone. The jury deliberated for 6 days. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous: guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced Gavril Petrovich Rogov to 20 years in a maximum security prison. As he was led away, he turned once, not toward Isolda, but toward Lyubov sitting on her grandfather's lap in the courtroom. The child did not look away. She met his gaze with her dark, mother's eyes, and for a moment, her expression was ancient, knowing, almost frightening. Then he was gone. 2 years passed. Isolda now lives in Yaroslavl in an apartment near Elvira Pavlovna Rogova. The two women became friends, bound by grief, betrayal, and children who are sisters through their father and do not know it. Lyubov is now 8. She goes to school, paints wooden dolls with patient hands, and asks fewer questions about her absent father. Her half-sister Aksinya is 6, a quiet child with her mother's dark hair and her father's attentive eyes. The girls play together on weekends, unaware of the truth of their connection, knowing only that they have each other. Isolda works as a guide at the Yaroslavl Art Museum, leading groups through halls of ancient icons and modern paintings. Elvira has returned to teaching. They share holidays. They share responsibilities. They heal, slowly. Luka Gavrilovich Kurakin still rings the bells of the Cathedral of Archangel Michael in Nizhny Novgorod. He visits when he can, bringing painted Easter eggs in spring and fresh apples in autumn, a constant presence, steady as stone. On a cold December Sunday, Isolde stands with Elvira and the girls on the bank of the Volga, watching ice form on the great river. She crosses herself, forehead, chest, right shoulder, left. Elvira does the same. The sun sets behind them, painting the sky in gold and rose. Somewhere upstream, in a prison too far to reach, a man counts his lost years. Lyubov tugs her mother's hand. "Mom, will we always live here?" "Yes, my little one. For now." "And Aunt Elvira? And Aksinya?" "They will always be with us," Isolde says. The child thinks about it, then nods contentedly and runs to her sister. Their laughter rings out in the winter silence. Isolde watches them and, for the first time in 2 years, feels something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. Church bells across Yaroslavl begin to ring, calling the faithful to evening prayer. Their sound carries over the frozen river, rising and merging into a chorus that speaks of endurance, faith, and the stubborn survival of life itself. They survived. They have each other. And that, in the end, is enough. Glory to God for all things. Thank you for listening.